Good Sunday morning. Welcome to Inside Tennessee along with my colleague John North. I'm John Becker. We are moderating a discussion this morning that has to do with what we spend our money on every day and who takes your money every day. We're talking about the economy as a whole, and for that we turn to an expert, Dr. Bill Fox. He is Professor Emeritus at the Haslam College of Business, but also a special advisor to Chancellor Donde Plowman at the University of Tennessee. Always good to see you.
Thank you, John. It's a privilege to be here. Thank you.
We're going to get to our questions with our panel as well, and that includes Eddie Smith, who is a former state representative and a Republican. Nice to have you here.
Good morning, John and John.
And Don Bosch is a Democrat, runs his own law firm in town.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning. Dr. Fox, we're going to, as we talked about off camera, talk about this in stages. We're going to start with local economy, move to state, and then the national economy. So let's look at Knoxville proper in particular. And what would you say about the health of Knoxville, Knox County in general in terms of economically, how are we doing?
The economy is doing great in the local area. The University of Tennessee is a big part of that. As you've heard, we've gone from 29,000 students to over 40,000 students, while Donde has been the chancellor here at UTK. With that has gone appropriate staff and faculty at the same growth rate. And so thousands of new employees, thousands of new students coming to town every day. That's doing great. We're the second fastest growing county in Tennessee in terms of population, people moving in. Incomes are rising relative to the nation. The economy is doing well.
You mentioned the University of Tennessee is a good metric. Are there others that you look for in addition to growth that tell you that the economy is doing better?
Well, it's not just big companies in this area. It's the growth in apartment buildings that are that is taking place across the area. It's employment growth in a lot of small firms across the area. That's really what we're seeing as evidence of a well-growing economy.
John?
Dr. Fox, we've just come out of a 6-week government shutdown. Here we all are, so that's good news. I'm just curious, from your perspective, what did we suffer from it either in the state or just nationwide that you'd share observations with that might be long-lasting?
Sure. Well, there certainly was a lot of pain for individuals.
Yes,
There's no question about that. Both people who worked for the government and people who didn't. It's probably going to reduce GDP growth in the quarter and the fourth quarter 0.5% or so. Most of that will be made up next quarter as the money is paid out to those employees, at least who work directly for the federal government. They'll still get their money, maybe a little less growth. You know, you worry about the long-term implications in terms of how people feel about their government, how the world perceives our ability to govern, these kinds of things, more than what's going to happen to GDP. Again, that'll mostly wash out across the 2 quarters.
One other question I want to get to on the local level, and then we'll open it up to you guys, is the stadium and the multi-use stadium and the promises that we would see that spur growth. It's only been open for, six months or so. What would you say that we've seen so far that encourages you or raises some questions?
Well, the first thing that you get from the stadium is change in where growth is taking place, bringing a lot more growth to the old city and that area, much of which was blighted. And so it's just a really fun place to go now that it didn't used to be. We're also going to continue to attract more events into Knox County as a result of it. You can have Neyland Stadium or something that's not quite that big, that's still a great venue, and you get that kind of economic effect. Some of it, of course, will come at the expense of neighboring counties, since we now are having those baseball games here rather than in Sevier County. So some of it moves, but some of it's real increase in the area.
So, Dr. Fox, we were talking off air before we got started here today. A little bit about this looming problem with Knox County and the budget, and really with the debt and the debt service and the flat line that property taxes really yield in terms of the driver of income, along with sales tax for Knox County. I've been looking at it. I've spent some time studying this week on the issue, and I'm hard-pressed to figure out a way. I don't think we can cut our way out of this. When you hear people say, oh, we shouldn't build a sculpture, we shouldn't have greenways, that accounts for 1% of the budget, the county budget. That's really minuscule relative to the budget. What do you think is a solution to being able to pay what is about to become a looming debt and debt service?
Yeah, it's a real challenge for people to understand how the property tax works. There's this expectation, well, my house just went up in value, therefore I'm going to pay more property tax. In fact, by state law, that's not what happens.
Equalizes,
and,
that's right.
and it equalizes whenever we reappraise. And so we get growth only when we have new construction, new property in the area. And that simply doesn't grow fast enough to fund public services. The good news is the sales tax is doing pretty well in the state so far this year. It's up about 5%. That's really healthy relative to what we've seen in the last year or two. And so good news there. But in the long term, it's a real challenge without some kind of a rate increase. Can you find areas to cut? I haven't studied it, but it would be a big challenge. I mean, much of the money is just going to fund schools. So unless we're going to reduce the school's budget,
services, which we don't fund like some other states may do. And so I just wonder, if we haven't had a property tax increase in 22 years, I don't know. I don't see another source that's going to yield enough money maybe to solve this problem. And I'm curious, do you think that sales tax might do it?
Well, the sales tax is certainly a possibility. As you know, the city just went through an exercise to try to raise the rate. We could do it countywide, and the city would have picked up about $50 million. I haven't studied the county as a whole, but I'm going to guess that would have been $65, $70 million if you had the whole county raise the rate. Half of that by statute has to go to education, and so what you have is the other half that would be available. It's certainly a political challenge as well as an economic challenge to solve the problem, given the way in which all that debt was created without an obvious way to pay for it.
Eddie, your question, and then we've got a break.
Yeah, so when you think about it, there's only two ways government can make money. It's either raise taxes or increase the businesses and the input into the system. Let's think through what Mayor Kincannon and Mayor Jacobs has done. We've seen the stadium built. Green Heck is building out in East Knoxville, one of the largest investments, but that's not online yet. So as we look down the road, what do you see as some of the positives of some of this growth that is starting to take place, even though it's not kicking in yet?
Well, we're certainly getting some growth from that. Now, some of the money, of course, associated with the stadium is going for the stadium and not for the provision of general services. And you may have seen that the discussion of expanding Neyland Stadium. And again, some version of that may happen with that as well. And so you don't necessarily generate all the revenue in terms of delivering local public services that you might have expected. You do get some growth, of course, from other kinds of businesses. Often there's some type of tax concession associated with that. And so again, it makes it challenging to have just those kind of lumpy big activities be enough to fund government by themselves.
We're going to expand our discussion to the region and the state with Dr. Fox when we come back right after this. Back on Inside Tennessee with the man who used to write the economic report for the state of Tennessee that was delivered to the governor each year. Are you still doing that, Dr. Fox?
I'm not. It's done in the Boyd Center for Business and Economic Research, and I've stepped out of that to work with the chancellor. Privileged to do that.
But for years, you looked at the health of the state's economy. When you did that, remind us the metrics you used to study whether Tennessee was doing well as compared to the rest of the nation.
Sure. I'm still spending my time looking at the economy as well, just at working in a different part of the university. So what do I look at? I look at employment growth. How's it performing? I look at GDP, just output growth, what we're producing in our state, in our economy. What's happening to people moving here, migration. These are the main things I look at. Maybe income as well, which differs a little bit from output. 3 or 4 major metrics to track, and I continue to track them. Tax revenues is a 5th one that I pay a lot of attention to, because nobody's estimating tax revenues. It's dollars in the door, and it gives us a really good measure of what's happening to that kind of activity.
So of the 50 states, are we in the top third, the middle third, or the bottom third right now in terms of our economic health?
So we're doing really well relative to other states. For example, if you look at, let's say, the last 15 years, our GDP growth is at the top of the Southeast. I mean, what more could you ask for? You think about what's the fast-growing part of the U.S. economy. The Southeast is heavily it, and And so by that metric, we're doing really well. By in-migration, Tennessee is doing very well. 2 years ago, we had extraordinary amounts. It's still, over the last couple of years, lots of people moving here. And lots of people, let's say 55 to 65, moving here. Maybe they're not quite ready to retire, but they're thinking, where would I like to live? Tells you something about the quality of life here to have so many people in that age bracket. You know, these aren't just 20-year-olds moving to Nashville. These are people who say, hey, that's a place I'd like to live.
So, Dr. Fox, why is everything more expensive then? Why is rent more expensive? Homes, groceries, pretty much everything but gasoline. I think gasoline's gone down a little bit. Why is everything more expensive if we're doing so well as a state?
Well, of course, we're a part of a country where inflation is taking place. It's above 3%. It remains.
So we get to blame it on all our neighbors.
We can blame it on all of our neighbors. Now, of course, having people move here, also, you know, just think like an economist. This is having the increased demand for housing means that housing prices will go up, and so, you know, economic growth does come with some consequences, right? One of which is you're likely to have higher housing prices. There's been a big shift, by the way, away from big cities with the work from home phenomenon and COVID and so forth, and towards places like in Tennessee as a result of technology changes. And this, again, has tended to hold down prices in places like San Francisco, still high, but holding down their growth while they come up in places like Knoxville.
So let's think about, you know, under Governor Haslam, even under Governor Bredesen, now under Governor Lee, 3 governors, two of them of a different party. So when you look at what the state has actually done to diversify its business pool, a lot of states kind of went after one specific, you know, entity. Tennessee's been very diversified, going and recruiting businesses from multiple locations. How has that helped our economy kind of weather some of these ups and downs?
So one measure, by the way, just before I answer your question, is during those 3 governors, we've been a AAA rated state by all 3 rating agencies. That tells you something about Republicans, Democrats. We do government, we do a state really well, and it's recognized by the experts. So that's great news. Diversity really matters in the sense you're talking about it, that we have manufacturing, and we have healthcare, and we have music, and this whole range of things. You know, when I came to Tennessee a long time ago, this was an incredibly heavy manufacturing state. We've moved away from that some. Now we've moved away from cut and sew kind of low skill, low wage industry, more into vehicles and higher skill, higher wage kind of industries. But you know, you may think, well, what we want is just massive amounts of manufacturing, but the growth in our country is really in service sector jobs and in high skill, high wage ones. Of course, AI is playing a big role in that, and we want to participate in the fast-growing, even higher wage industries, and that diversification has permitted us to do that.
In Tennessee, are wages keeping up with the cost of living?
They are. Wages are growing faster than inflation. You know, in economist lingo, we're seeing real wages grow, and relative to the nation also. Again, it reflects the fact that we are increasing the quality of our employment. We still have a room to go. We remain a relatively lowly educated state, and so we're still not getting the research necessarily that we'd like from around the country coming. Let's do it here. Now, we have some great stuff in Oak Ridge and other places at the University of Tennessee in our area, so I'm not trying to say we have none. I'm talking about as a whole, we need to continue to grow in our ability to attract that kind of firms. And of course, we have places like Oracle coming to Middle Tennessee as an example of a new expansion in that kind of skill, and Amazon in Nashville as well.
We're going to take another quick break on Inside Tennessee, back with a more global picture from Professor Fox, who's giving us an education this morning on the economic health of the local, state, and nation that we're talking about. Back after this. Back on Inside Tennessee with Dr. Fox, and we're talking the economy. Let's move to the national picture. And one thing that you brought up, Dr. Fox, is artificial intelligence. We are hearing so much right now about how this is going to change everything we do. Supporters say it's going to give us more leisure time. Critics say, watch out, they're coming for your job. What do you say to people about the impact AI will have on the workforce?
So we're all going to learn in real time the impact it's going to have. it's obvious that some jobs are going to go away. Some in the legal area, for example, or at least some things you used to do, Don, are going to be done by
They won't
AI.
have a robot standing in a courtroom talking to a jury, but all but, I think.
Everything else might be done.
I hope not journalism.
And journalism may get it. I mean, economists may see it go away. Certainly data analysis of the kind we do. And so it's going to impact how almost all of us do our job. Whether or not it decreases the number of jobs, we don't know yet. We're gonna see, because as it replaces some of the things we used to do, there may be a whole bunch of new stuff come up we never thought about. That's what happened with the internet, for example. And so employment didn't really go down because of the internet, but it certainly makes everybody nervous with good reasons. And you know, when I talk to students, the issue of what should I major in a world that's changing so fast. But what AI is doing for sure is it's getting a lot of investment in the economy. It's been running up the financial markets. Now, maybe not so much this week, but it's been running up. That means people feel wealthier, and particularly the middle and upper income people have been spending a lot of money. And then the third thing it's going to do is it's going to make the economy much more productive. Now, do we all get to sit home and do nothing? We'll find out. I don't think so, and I hope not. But you know, we're going to truly watch it in real time. It's going to be huge change in the economy.
What about those on the bottom end of the economy, and those people that are working two jobs at near minimum wage? And a lot of those jobs have increased their salaries as well, or their pay, or their hourly rate. But I just heard you say it's really going to help the middle and the upper class and do things, and it will. I think everybody at this table will benefit from AI. But what about that person that barely got through high school, that doesn't have a lot of skills, that has to feed a family? How do we take care of those in this economy?
So actually, when I was talking about the middle and upper income, I was talking about the people who own the wealth, who own the stock market, and as the values have gone up, they've gotten wealthier. That's a different issue from what happens to their job. And what we're seeing, for example, some reporting by the Wall Street Journal recently noting the fact that people coming right out of college now are finding it more difficult to get a job than they used to, because companies are being conservative, but they're also finding AI replacing some of those. What's not going to get replaced in the near term, you noted, you're still going to testify in front of the judge. Things that people have to personally be there. Think of some things that take place even in restaurants. You still probably mostly want a person to wait on you. There will be some robots playing a role like they're already on campus, right? So there are versions of that. But healthcare, a lot of the things that are done in healthcare, now the radiology work may be done by AI, but having somebody who's having the touchy-feely part of that industry is still going to be there. So I don't think we should look at this as it's only going to hurt low-income people. I think a lot of those jobs may, in fact, be better off, whereas it's people in the middle who could be affected.
And I want to piggyback off of Don's question, moving away from AI, but on that, you mentioned a minute ago that we still have a very undereducated workforce. We're not competing against Kentucky or South Carolina. We're competing against
the world.
International companies.
Yeah,
so
the world.
When you think about that and the drive to 55, how do we continue to bolster? What is UT doing to help move the needle to make sure that we've got people who are educated for the jobs of tomorrow, whether it be AI or something else, so that we can help move those people up into a better position in life?
So the drive to 55 was a great initiative, and Governor Haslam deserves a lot of credit for that. I never thought we could quite do it by 2025, and we didn't, but that didn't matter to me.
I want to stop you. That was to get 55% of the workforce in the state of Tennessee with a degree past high school.
Something beyond high school, not necessarily a degree, maybe some
vocational
other kind
certificate,
vocational certificates, and a great idea. And the programs they put in place to move us in that direction were great, even if we couldn't quite get to 55. So what are places like University of Tennessee doing? We're going from 29,000 students to over 40,000 students. Now, some of those students are coming from out of state. We still have a record number of in-state students who are coming, and so it's not like these are all from out of state. But what is a better way to build a skilled in-state labor force than to get the best students from New York or from California to come here, get educated? We don't keep them all, but
if they stay, that's right.
How do we keep them?
Well, we get at least 40% of them to stay, which is more than the zero we would have otherwise. That's a lot of students to come, and of course they're coming and they're spending their money and they're paying tuition. I mean, this is a really big step. in the right direction. And we continue to have programs focused on many of them coming from the Drive 55 to get more people educated.
I wish we had an hour, Dr. Fox. That's it today, but we'll have you back, I hope, very soon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
Enjoyed
very
being
much.
here.
We're back after this with our talk around. We're back on Inside Tennessee. John North, we are going to see a significant event here coming up that we want to mention.
Right. So we've all been kind of waiting for it, at least if you're a nerd like we are, and that's Lamar Alexander's book. He's been working on it probably down in the mountains around Blount County. And we got a sort of sneak peek at it. A couple Fridays ago, the Baker School held its dinner to honor Howard Baker and his 100th birthday. Included in the pamphlet was, hey, here's a little bit of a sneak peek at the book. By the way, if you go to Amazon, it's coming out in May. We're trying to get Senator Alexander here to talk about it. Senator, if you're watching, love to have you.
We would love to
Give
have
us
you,
a call.
Senator. Yes,
Give us
indeed.
a call, ring-a-ding.
Let's move to some of his colleagues on the Hill and what happened in Congress, because I know both of you want to weigh in on that. And we did see some movement. President Trump has gotten his way throughout his first term, really up until this week, Don.
Yeah, no question, the worst week that Donald Trump has had in 5 years of being president of the United States.
Month hasn't been very good for him either.
No, it is. It really is. It makes me sad and angry to watch what he's done this last week, calling for the execution of some Democratic leaders, congressmen and senators that said you do not have to follow a illegal order, not orders from your superiors, because of some of the things that have been going on. To watch him call out a reporter asking a fair, pertinent, timely question and call her piggy. That would get you suspended from school. It would get you kicked out of daycare. It would get you removed from a sports team. But the President of the United States, not only did, it just sort of gloss over a lot of people, but even her colleagues really should have stood up at that point and said, wait a minute, that's enough.
Eddie, we do know that this president of anyone in politics can withstand a week like this and walk away tomorrow with a victory.
And quite frankly, I don't know how. It's one of those things that just defies all conventional wisdom when you look at politics over time. I honestly think you have to go back to probably the 1780s and 1790s when there were just knockdown brawls in Congress over things like this. But one of the things that I'm also encouraged by is what's happening behind the scenes. One of the things that I'm hearing out of D.C. Is that there's still 9 appropriation bills that they need to get written and funded before January 30th. Some of those are starting to make some significant progress. You'll see some things called the mini buses as they move those through over the next couple of weeks. So things, while it may have seemed like it just kind of shut down, there is still a lot of momentum behind the scenes working on behalf of the American people.
Well, I think what we've seen, though, is finally the Republican side of the House and the Senate have realized, hey, we probably, if we get together, we can stand up against Donald Trump when he's trying to take our authority, our Article 1 authority away. That is, our president has Article 2 authority. It's good to see that happen. Sad to think that the first time we could get a major consensus and coalition was over exposing a child predator. And good Lord, the bar is set pretty low there. Let's hope, though, that bipartisanship at some level can carry over.
We will see that test coming in January, because that is the next time we're going to have to see Congress take some action on the budget. Eddie, do you think we shut down the government again?
I don't, and if we did, it's going to be a very small shutdown. Again, 3 of the 12 appropriation bills are already funded through FY26. I think you'll see probably another 5 or 6. So if we saw any shutdown, it's going to be very small and limited in scope come January.
I'll be surprised, likewise, if it shuts down as well. I think now, and Eddie and I will probably still disagree on it, I think this really hurt the Republican side worse. And as midterms creep up that much closer, I think the Republicans who do control right now won't let this government shut down again.
And Don, for my good friend Bill Dunn, who's listening, I just want to say I'd love to agree with you, but there's no sense in both of us being wrong.
We'll leave it there. Good to know that Mr. Dunn is watching. John, anything to add on the local front that people should be watching this week?
Well, we do have a County Commissioner, Rhonda Lee, who expressed her ambitions to become, to fill a General Sessions judicial slot. That'll be really interesting. She can't do both, so she said, well, she would, if she gets, or if she wants to be judge, she might step down from commission. That's very interesting if that happens. I don't know that she has the inside track as far as the courthouse is concerned for that job.
She might, though, with County Commission.
We appreciate you watching. See you next week.